We're very pleased to present Rainer's solo exhibition here in Singapore. What inspired me most about Rainer's work is his very contemporary approach towards human feature. His works are indeed very current in the way he reinvents the classical and ever-existing fascination for the sculptural representation of human shape by using a very inventive and innovative style, fashioned from hundreds of cut square metals that he precisely welds together to form a whole. Very contemporary as well is the way he represents his figures, freed from all academic postures. Rainer captures his models in motion and interaction with their environment. They appear climbing, running, flying, or diving. And what is really striking is the very modern approach, the way it captures and represents human spirit. The feature is human, but the essence is spiritual. The sculpture are shapes of souls and minds, passing almost through walls, flying and floating effortlessly, weightless and freed from all laws of gravity and physics. Rainer's art connects with the essence of abstraction. We welcome you to discover the art of Rainer here at Ode to Art Gallery. See you soon.
I came from architecture and interior design. I worked in architecture and interior design as a retailer for many years, importing, till 2005. Then I had my midlife crisis and needed to do something else. And I had always collected my own sculptures, other sculptures from other people, my own collection. And thought maybe it would be fun to do something with metal. Till then I never had welded in my life. So 2005 I talked to a friend and says, can you just teach me welding? And he says, yeah, come over to my studio. He's an artist. Come over to my studio and I give you the machine and you start welding. So I went over, I started welding. I was pretty quickly bored with the whole process. And one thing they do when you learn, they give you little leftover pieces like the garbage, the cuttings, and they say make something out of it. And at that point I was very interested in a process called the Hoffman process. And their theory is your life is not in balance unless you have the spiritual, intellectual, all these four angles in balance. And the sign that they use is squares. So I thought, oh, let me just cut some squares out of a square tubing, which is easy to get, and make something out of that. And that's how I got started on the forms with the squares and the sculptures. So it was like a pretty easy, logical process. I didn't do a lot of turns. I pretty much right away moved towards that medium and that idea of sculpture. They developed my sculptures. In the beginning I really did torsos, and it was very standing. There was nothing really happening. And I was more fascinated with the idea of how the eye makes out of little information a complete sculpture. And then as I moved along, I started having climbers and runners, and there it's really about the motion. How much can I push the envelope and you still see something, the spectator? How do you see the movement if I have a runner, or do you just see somebody frozen? Do you expect the sculpture to keep moving, although you know it's steel and it can't do it? So that's what fascinates me right now. But one of the things that happens with my sculptures is that I give you very little information. The defined surface is less than 20%. And your brain scans the sculpture, so the brain knows I'm looking at a body. And it scans over it and now starts comparing the past experience of what a body is supposed to look like with what is there on the sculpture. So the brain will tell you, I'm seeing a detail of a finger or a direction of a finger that you might only see because of your experience, but another person might not see. What is in common is that the brain makes the surface very soft, although it's pretty rough, really. So this is one of the few pieces where I actually combine my search for movement with my German heritage. So obviously it's a person who is in the process of falling, slipping over a banana peel or something like that. And the Germans see a certain guilty pleasure in that. So the piece is called Schadenfreude, which means the pleasure of the misfortune of other people. So like in a movie, when somebody falls over a banana peel, everybody starts laughing. And that's exactly what the emotion that I try to reach here. You know, so although it's a tragic event, it actually shows something funny and makes you smile. So that's my German heritage to this piece. So this is one of my typical runners. This is more about movement than an emotion. So it's really like trying to capture the movement as it happens and still gives you the illusion like it keeps going. The metal that I use and the open spaces that I have here are really meant to create more of the movement and the speed in the piece. So the direction of the head is clearly pointing to something, you know, it's a very directional piece. While a climber, you know, has a lot of times has a very horizontal and vertical thing. This is a horizontal piece.